All right, apologies for that delay. We will make a start. I'd like to welcome everybody to this, the first meeting of the Metro Outer Development Assessment Panel. On the 6th of March, I'll introduce everybody and myself, Karen Hyde, as presiding member, Ian Birch as deputy presiding member, John Syme as specialist member, President Robert Coles, local government member, Serpentine and Jarrahdale, and Councillor Shay Mack, local government member, Shire, Serpentine, Jarrahdale. Also in the room with us today, we have officers from the Shire, Secretariat, and a number of members of the public, some of whom will be making presentations. I'd like to open the meeting by acknowledging the traditional owners and pay respects to elders past and present of the land on which the meeting is being held. This meeting is being recorded and hopefully live streamed on the DAP website in accordance with Regulation 42A of the DAP Regulations 2011. And so members are reminded before speaking just to reference their name. Thank you. Item 2, apologies, we have none. Item 3, members of leave of absence, we have none. Noting of minutes, they're available on the DAP website. We move to part B of the agenda. Declarations of due consideration. Just for the record, please could I see a show of hands to indicate everybody's given due consideration to all materials today? Thank you. Disclosure of interests. We have received a couple of standing declarations of interests by our 2 local government members who have attended a council meeting in respect of this matter and communications with members of the electorate. And I don't know if either of you wish to speak to that declaration of interest.
Presiding member, I will. So it's President Coles from the Shire of Serpentine, Jarrahdale. That contact was also as recent as this morning, where I received text messages from one of the applicants. So I want that recorded.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for your declarations. I've given that consideration and I regard that consistent with section 2.1.2 of the DAP Code of Conduct, that I acknowledge your conflicts of interest, your interest disclosures, and you're not bound by any previous decisions or resolution, and that you undertake to exercise independent judgment in relation to the matter before you, and so can continue to be involved in the meeting, debate and vote on any matters before us. I'd also like to disclose that members of the panel attended a site visit yesterday in connection with the application at 3.1. So we have before us a Form 1 application for Robertson Road Cardup, which is a retrospective concrete production manufacturing facility. And we have a number of presentations this morning. I'd like to commence with Mr. Mike Smoten, who's presenting in support of the recommendation to refuse the application. So I'd like to allow Mr. Smoten time to make the presentation. In accordance with the regs, I did allow 3 minutes, but I note that the forms still suggested 5. So there's some flexibility this morning. I'll let you know when you sort of get close to about 5 minutes. Thank you. Is Mr. Smoten available to join us online?
Can you hear me? Just can you hear me?
Good morning. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can indeed.
Okay, thanks. Okay, thanks for that. There's a bit of feedback.
There is.
And you can't see us.
And can you see us as well, or is it just audio? Hello? Hello? Why is it going mute again?
Can you hear us?
I can, but I keep losing the signal.
We just can't see you. You just need to turn your camera on.
Hello?
We can see you now.
Hello? Okay, okay. Well, good morning. My submission is in support of the reported recommendation, therefore against the existing and proposed development. There has been a considerable amount of rhetoric regarding the permacast retrospective approval, so I'm assuming all relevant parties are fully versed as to the relevant historical facts. In view of this, I would like to offer the following. Despite the assurance from Polvine Permacast, noise level being generated by the permacast facility are still affecting residents in Cardup. Following the lifting of the preservation notice by DEWA in November 2023, we have reason to contact the DEWA pollution hotline on several occasions stating noise and vibrations emitting from the permacast site, and contacted the DEWA hotline to report these occasions. The noise that is affecting us is certainly louder than the domestic refrigerator, as quoted by permacast legal representatives at the recent council meeting. He also stated it was of no great concern. In 2003, Polvine Permacast took a punt and rolled the dice. Rather than wait for the outcome of their application for retrospective approval, they went ahead with their proposed construction anyway. This in itself demonstrates the contempt and utter disregard for the local residents, planning authorities, and the local Shire. The residents of Cardup have had no say whatsoever in this matter. Permacast chose to ignore their responsibilities, in doing so ensuring the residents of Cardup had no means of disagreeing with the site's existence and expansion. This site has proven to be a polluter of the groundwater, the general environment, has infected all those living close by, and also disrupts traffic movement in the general area. Since the expansion, the residents of Cardup have been made to suffer, while the owners of the illegal facility have prospered due to a very lucrative contract, mainly with the WA government. On February the 7th, I was at Cork Grammar School at 2:50, which is pickup time. There was a large semi-trailer loaded with rebar travelling towards the junction of Bishops and Soldiers Road. This truck wanted to turn left into Soldiers Road, heading toward Permacast. But because of the traffic congestion, the truck was unable to turn into Soldiers Road because it required more than one lane to be able to exit. The traffic travelling from the north on Soldiers Road had to give way to allow the truck to move. We were assured by Permacast that trucks would use the main trucking routes and not the small back roads. However, this is not happening. Permacast has grown from a humble beginning into a heavy industrial site, which should not be located anywhere near sensitive areas. It should be designated to a heavy industrial zone. Thank you.
Can he hear us now? He can hear us. Thank you very much, Mr. Smotown. Did panel members have any questions of the presenter at this point? No questions? All right, thank you very much. We have noted everything that you said and appreciated your presentation. I'd like to call the next presenter, please, which is Christine Smoten, who is also presenting in support of the recommendation to refuse the application. Over to you, Mrs. Smoten.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. The polluting, noisy, illegal permacast facility has shown no respect whatsoever for the Cardup community. They have proved they have no morals, values, or respect for anyone or anything. Since 2006, they have been polluting the air, water, and the Bush Forever site. Our potable groundwater has been affected and poisoned during this time. We now buy all our water. Our water has never been tested by any authority. We came to Cardup in 2003 for fresher, cleaner country air to help my lung problem. Because of permacast, this has totally backfired on us. The noise and vibrations are phenomenal, 24 hours a day. We hear the thudding vibration morning, noon, and night. It vibrates the whole house. This noise cannot be measured on the street or in our garden. This noise and vibration should be measured inside our house. It can be heard and felt above the sound of the wind, our fridge, and our TV. And we live 1 kilometre away. We should not have to live with this noise, vibration, and pollution in this once quiet country rural area of Cardup. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Smoten. Did panel members have any questions of that presenter? Mr. Birch has a question for you, Ms. Smoten. If you could just remain on camera for a minute. Sorry, Mrs. McEwen, could Mrs. Smoten come back? Thank you.
I'm back.
Thank you very much. Mr. Birch has a question for you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to mention the pollution of the groundwater, have you had that? Have you had any
We
scientific?
have not personally.
Sorry, I haven't finished the question. Have you had any scientific analysis done to confirm that what the pollution is and where it's coming from?
We have not personally had our groundwater tested because it costs $300 and we are retirees. Nobody in authority has tested this for us. Our water, if you want to try and drink it, you can. I'll give you some. Is totally turquoise. What does that prove? Copper? What pollutants are in there? I wouldn't dare to think since 2006 and all that's etched through the ground. Thank you.
Can I please add a comment to that?
Oh, sorry, who's speaking? We can't see you.
It's Mr. Smoten.
Mr. Smoten, is it?
It's Mike Smoten.
All right. Mr. Birch, would you like to put the same question to Mr. Smoten?
If Mr. Smoten's got something to add. My question is whether there has been any verification, scientific verification for the condition of the groundwater that you're talking about. Can you add to that?
We've had no testing done officially. However, I did contact the Department of Water recently. I got then fobbed off from the Department of Water to DEWA, and I'm still waiting a response from DEWA as to what they're going to do about it. At the beginning of the summer, our water used to be, our bore water, which we rely on for everything, used to be clear. We run in a sink now and have to let it run for 10 minutes, otherwise we end up with a bowl of turquoise water. Now, okay. I know that the groundwater levels are dropping. However, as I said, this never used to happen at the beginning of summer, but it's beginning at the start of summer now. We rely on rainwater during the winter period, but in the summertime we rely on bore water.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Smoten, to adding to the previous comments. Thank you. I'd now like to, if there are no further questions, I'd now like to call upon Karen and John McEwen. It's Karen McEwen, I think, who is making the presentation on behalf of them. Over to you, Mrs. McEwen.
Yes, that's right. Before I start, can we take the background off the screen? Is that possible?
I think we can. Just a moment, please. Oh, sorry, Mrs. McEwen, I'm advised that we're not able to remove the background, I'm afraid. Are you comfortable to proceed?
I am.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'll do my best. Right.
Thank you.
At the previous step meeting, we presented our environmental issues. Since the presiding member, deputy presiding member, and special members are all planners, this time we will focus on these facilities' lack of forethought and planning. The definition of general industry in Industrial Land Strategy 2009, to which two of you contributed, includes the statement, which by the nature of their operations should be separated from residential areas. We are now in a residential crisis. The focus is on residential development. Permacast has encroached on already existing residences and residential land. In the additional time provided by MODAP, Permacast has further increased in size. Permacast believes that the laws, regulations, and recommendations do not apply to them. This attitude seems to have been condoned and supported by the regulators. It is time to stop. At the time of the MRS zoning to industrial, the EPA noted that proposed industrial land uses will need to be separated from existing dwellings with an adequate buffer. Permacast built its illegal plant without any consideration for any planning rules or regulations or the EPA's guidance statement. Permacast was established 18 years ago. They only applied for retrospective approval in 2023. This is despite all planning laws, regulations, and recommendations requiring planning approvals prior to building and operation. In the MRS application, Permacast wanted the bush forever areas to be included in the rezoning. They were not. However, large areas of bush forever have been absorbed into their plant. It is time to stop. They said they would no longer be clearing. However, they've been cutting trees on Friday and this morning before we left for this meeting. According to Permacast, legislation that applies to the concrete and cement industry do not apply to them. The legislation is very clear. Concrete batching or cement products manufacturing, where more than 100 tons per year are produced, are prescribed. Where cement product manufacturing means the manufacture of products in which cement or concrete is the principal ingredient. Dover removed the EPN, citing that noise test 2 achieved compliance. However, according to Dover's submission, the test 2 measurement data were reportedly affected by high winds, and no measurement data were presented for test 3. Therefore, the noise emissions from SV4 may not be accurately represented in the NV report. According to noise regulations, readings that are affected by external influences such as wind should be excluded. Permacast chose to ignore the regulations. The removal of the EPN was based basically on dodgy, unconfirmed results. Furthermore, the other requirements on the EPN had not been completed. We have requested that all these issues and discrepancies are investigated. It is time to stop. Noise compliance was only achieved by inflating the allowable noise level. Permacast requests you to ignore the LSP, which is basically their attitude to all the laws and regulations. We have requested an investigation as to how this illegal operation has been awarded several government contracts. This is not a reason for granting them approval. Despite its huge production, 128 heavy vehicles a day, many other operational and support vehicles, dust monitoring has never been conducted. Over the last 6 months, these papers have blown onto our property.
That's okay. I think we can see what you're
I'm
holding
sorry,
up.
you can't really see it with the background.
Yes, that's all right. I think it's a bag.
About 30 of these bags,
It's
you can't
paper.
see them, they're huge, heavy bags, have blown onto our property. It is a given that dust from permacast is blowing onto our properties. Despite the operating hours being 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, they've worked on every single Saturday. They start before 7 a.m. Again, demonstrating the disdain for adhering to regulations or consideration of the community. Your decision based purely on a planning assessment is simple. The facility is inconsistent with State Planning Policy 4.1 because their emissions extend beyond their boundary and the impact area is not a compatible zone. Under both the LPS3 and the LSP, the plant falls within industry categories that are not permitted without local government approval. Permacast built the plant without seeking developmental approval, and local council has recommended refusal of approval twice. Approving this development would make a mockery of all the planning principles and legislation. Additional time cannot resolve fundamental issues. The wrong type of industry has been developed on this site. Furthermore, the operation is too big and too heavy for the site and too close to residences and residential developments. It is time to stop this illegal operation. Please refuse this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. McKeown. Did panel members have any questions of Mrs. McKeown at this point? No, we're all good. Thank you very much. I'd like now to call Miss Belinda Morich from Morich and Moore, who is also presenting us in support of the recommendation to refuse the application. I think Miss Morich is online as well. You're currently muted.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
My apologies. Thank you, presiding member and members of the panel. I act for Land Group WA and Gold Fusion Proprietary Limited. They are both large landholders in this immediate vicinity. A copy within the additional package, as it's now called, on the JDAP website, and included in my presentation this morning was a aerial photograph which identifies those two land holdings. Now, my clients have consistently objected to this proposal at each opportunity since the application was first advertised. Now, having had the opportunity to read the Responsible Authority report, I wish to highlight a couple of matters. This application is unique in that it is what appears to be now entirely retrospective. There was at some point when it was first lodged, that it was some parts of it were prospective, but everything now appears to have been constructed and more. Therefore, there's no need to rely upon modelling of impacts, as those impacts are already in existence and can be measured and experienced. And you've heard this morning from the near neighbours as to the impacts that they are experiencing from the existing operations. And in that regard, one of the most concerning matters is that of noise and vibrations. Now, it appears that in order for compliance to be reached with the noise regulations, that only one stressing bed can be vibrated at any one time. And that's clear from the commentary at page 11 of the Shire's RAR. That also confirms that in order for compliance to be reached, they've the applicant has also had to change its recipe for creating the concrete mixture so that it is not as thick and therefore can be vibrated more easily by the agitator machines. And that's also included in the Shire's RAR at pages 11 and 17. What we would say to that is these stressing beds have been constructed recently, particularly stressing bed 4, and it's clear the fact that they have been constructed means that more than one needs to be used at any one time. I also note that there is nothing in any of the reports which mentions or addresses the noise of hoisting these large pieces of concrete infrastructure once moulded onto trucks and then hauled away from the site. The documentation, the planning report originally lodged with this application noted that this occurs in the middle of the night under pilot vehicle, yet there's no measurement at all of the noise associated with moving those pieces of equipment on site or onto the local roads. Given the lack of involvement of DEWA in the licensing process, it falls entirely to the JDAP to ensure that conditions of approval are sufficient to ameliorate any off-site impact. And that's because there's no requirement for a works approval or a license for this applicant to continue operating. Now, it's our submission that JDAP should not be required to impose conditions which restrict the use of this site in such a way as to mandate the recipe for the use of concrete of the concrete mixture or the way in which the stressing beds are to operate, in order for the JDAP to be satisfied that the proposal can comply with not only regulatory standards but with an acceptance of amenity within the area. We would say that these types of conditions are red flags that the proposal is inappropriate in this location. In the decision of Kipper Freeholds and the Development Assessment Commission, which is a decision of the South Australian Court that's been adopted in Western Australia as the test for appropriateness of condition making, the following comments were made regarding a decision maker's role in imposing conditions. And that judgment says that the power to impose conditions is vested in a planning authority for the purpose of enabling it to regulate incidental aspects of the development so that it doesn't have an adverse effect upon the amenity of the neighbourhood of the development, either in the course of construction or when the development is completed. The power to impose conditions is not provided to enable a planning authority to alter the nature of the proposal and hedge it about with conditions which are unworkable, unenforceable, and seek to confine the development form being used in its ordinary way. Resort to the use of such conditions is tantamount to an acknowledgement that the proposed development is inappropriate for the subject land. If a planning authority imposes this latter type of condition, it is using the power to impose conditions for a purpose for which it was not intended, because it goes beyond the incidental aspects of the intended land use and strikes directly at the intended land use. We emphasise that judgment because we are concerned that the conditions that are required in order to make this application acceptable fall in that latter category. My clients are very concerned that off-site impacts from this proposal will impact upon the developability of their land. And we say that would be grossly unfair, given my clients have acquired these land holdings on the basis of their existing and proposed future zoning and have lawfully followed orderly and proper planning principles in furthering the development of their land through scheme amendments, structure planning and subdivision approvals. Allowing a landowner who has to date completely disregarded those same principles in circumstances where to approve this application is likely to have an adverse impact on the development capability of my client's land, as well as on the amenity of existing residents, we say is grossly unfair.
Ms Moritz, you're some way over your 5
Oh,
minutes.
my apologies.
Close to concluding remarks.
Yes, I am. Thank you. And my apologies for that. I should have kept a timer going. My client land group is in the process of preparing a structure plan for its lot 30, and it is rightly concerned that DEWA will require that northwestern corner of the lot to be maintained as a buffer should this application be approved. We say that the fact that this application is retrospective should not change the JDAP's resolve to approve this application will be to give this proponent a free pass, and on that basis, we respectfully request that the JDAP support the recommendation for refusal. Thank you.
Thank you. Did panel members have any questions of Ms. Morich at this time? No questions? All right, thank you very much for your presentation. We'll now move ahead with presentations which are against the recommendation. On the list we have Mr. David Barrett, first of all. Is Mr. Barrett online? We can see your black screen, Mr. Barrett. I'm not sure if you're able to put your camera on. If it's too difficult to put your camera on, we do think that you're unmuted, so you probably have sound. Can you hear us all right?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
All right. Are you comfortable to go ahead without visuals?
Yes, I am.
Okay. When you're ready, thank you.
I stand here this morning talking in support of this development application, not only as employee of Permacast, but as a resident of the Shire of Serpentine, Jarrahdale. I've been employed by Permacast for 12 years and a Serpentine, Jarrahdale resident for 8 years, with the sole reason I purchased my property in the New Whitby estate to be close to work and have a vast array of career opportunities for me and my child. Permacast provides so many opportunities for a range of skill sets that is second to none in the Shire. From accountants, boilermakers, carpenters, labourers, cleaners, administration staff, engineers, plumbers, electricians, health and safety officers, steel fixers, scaffolders, crane operators, and the many more I can't list. All either indirectly or directly. This includes myself. I started in Permacast in late 2011 as a labourer. Permacast growth has allowed me to grow from that labourer to various leadership roles. Where else am I or my child going to get the same opportunities? It saddens me that the people cannot see the bigger picture and make false claims about Permacast, about who we are and what we stand for. I will tell you who Permacast is, because it certainly isn't this corporate monster that's being portrayed. It's a family business that treats their employees like family. It's a company that cares. I remember the day that DEWA issued the prevention notice. I remember when Alberto called us in for an urgent meeting, and I remember the words that he said, "We have to get better at what we do, and we will be better at what we do." Since then, the amount of meetings, plannings, expenditure that has gone into this place absolutely blows my mind. And most of the time it actually hurts my mind. The work, leadership, and quickness of mitigation controls have been implemented is company-wide, because at every level, we want to continue to deliver projects that benefit people across all of Western Australia. Now, these include projects like the Optus Stadium, Byford Rail, right here in the Shire. I cannot fathom why the Shire wants to reject local companies delivering infrastructure as a place where I work and live. There have been issues raised with our operations. There is no disputing that. But to say that nothing has changed couldn't be further from the truth. I've personally walked with Shire and government officials on this site multiple times, with them telling us all how impressed they are with the way that we implement controls and their effectiveness. We will continue to improve all aspects of the operations to provide a safer, happier environment, not only to our employees, but to the residents as well. The Serpentine Jarrahdale Local Planning Strategy Community Vision states, city living offering rural lifestyle with abundant opportunities and for a diverse community. If Permacast isn't offering that, exactly that, then I'm not standing here right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Were there any questions with Mr. Barrett? No? We will proceed then. Thank you, Mr. Barrett. We now have Ms. Teresa Doherty, who is presenting against the recommendation to refuse the application. Are you online, Ms. Doherty? Not online? Do we have Mr. Matt Doherty online? We did receive their written submissions, which of course we have all read. We don't believe that they're online. We'll proceed. If they come back online shortly, we can obviously go back to them. Next, then we have Mr. Ronan Harton. Is Mr. Harton available? Mr. Harton's not available either. Okay, but we have read the written presentation as well. With that, then we'll refer to Mr. Foley, Mr. Brendan Foley from Thompson Gear, who is presenting against the recommendation to refuse the application. Mr. Foley, if you'd like to go over there, please, where DAP Secretariat is, and you're representing a number of people this morning, so I have allowed you 10 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you.
When you're ready.
I'm just going to move this. Good morning, presiding member, other members of the panel. I'm here today representing Polvine, Pty Ltd trading Permacast. Here in the room is Mr. Alberto Ferraro, who's Director of Permacast. And I also have...
Can I just interrupt you? Is the microphone actually working? It's quite a faint sound. Oh, okay.
I'll speak up.
Could you project? Thank you.
I will try my best, and if I start to falter, please, you know. I'm here today with Mr. Alberto Ferraro, who's the Director of Permacast, and I've also got Matthew Nolan, who's our lead acoustic consultant from Lloyd George Acoustics. While it has not been included in the main area, there is a alternate resolution option 2 that was put forward by officers of the Shire for the council endorsement, and that was at page 1492. At annexure 1 of my written submission, I have annotated some requested amendments to those conditions if the panel was so inclined to support the application. Some of the submitters noted that this application is unique, and that is very much the case. It is an existing and operational facility which undertakes extremely large public works in support of mostly major state government road and rail infrastructure projects, and has done so for many years. Polvine purchased the facility from the previous owners in the late 2000s, was already operating as a concrete product manufacturing facility at the time that they took over ownership. Extremely large precast bridge sections for the Metronet Byford rail extension are currently being produced at the facility, and that is what SB4 was constructed to produce. SB4 is owned by the PTA until the end of that process. So the works that have occurred on site in the previous 2 years, SB4 and its supporting infrastructure, sorry, I've doubled up on that one. Permacast is one of the largest employers, direct and indirect, within the Shire, and the premises is appropriately characterised as a concrete product manufacturing facility. There is mention throughout the RAR and in submissions about concrete manufacturing. That is not correct. I need to be really clear here. Permacast does not manufacture concrete on the premises. It pours wet concrete made by others, predominantly WA Premix, who are also on site and already have approval, into moulds, which are called stressing beds. And once the concrete has set, the bridge sections are removed from the mould, cleaned, and then stored at lot 21 up the top. There was some comment about the truck movements of these sections leaving the site. So the sections are made during the day at this facility at lot 60. They are transported during the day up to lot 21, which already has approval for the storage of these sections. And then they're already on trucks. So they're not loaded at night time onto trucks and leave. They're pre-loaded onto the trucks. And all that happens at night time is when the road closures get put in place with main roads, they leave the site. So the trucks turn on and they drive under pilot. Respectfully, the RAR appears to give the impression that there remains dissatisfaction from DWER's perspective as to the way in which the operation now functions. There have been significant amendments to the way in which the site functions since DWER's intervention about 6 months ago. I refer you to attachment 10 in particular, which is signed by the Executive Director of Compliance at DWER, who confirmed that DWER are satisfied that suitable noise mitigation and emission controls have been implemented by Polvine to ensure noise levels are within the assigned levels and in compliance with the noise regulations. On the question or the submission made about the separation distances, this is not a prescribed premises, and we do not fall within the category of cement product manufacturing under the EPA guideline, which recommends a 750 metre buffer. That 750 metre recommended buffer would apply to the existing concrete batching plant that is already on site. There's a similar buffer under that same guideline that applies to the timber product manufacturing facility, which is also on this site. In terms of the noise regulations, there is some commentary from the Shire regarding this. I want to make a few comments. The first is, one, we are very, very confident that we comply with the noise regulations on this site, given the mitigation measures that have been put in place. Following the testing that occurred in November, that was the subject of that particular report. SB4 in particular, but the other specimens have been operating pretty much the whole time. Every 4 days or so, they cycle through just the way that the facility works to deliver those bridge sections. There is on-site noise monitoring and on-site vibration monitoring, and there is also off-site noise monitoring that occurs at the Baker Community Hall, which is located on the other side of the railway line, across the road from one of the resident submitters. Every single time that DWER, and I answer the call from DWER, every single day residents make a complaint. Every single day, and by the way, this included yesterday, while we're on site, I received a phone call from DWER, a complaint about the noise that was equivalent to 10 helicopters taking off, impacting on those houses. Now, we were on site yesterday, and I personally did not experience that when we crossed the road. The operation was barely audible, and that aligns exactly with the measurements that have been taken by the noise. I'm not a noise consultant. The measurements that have been taken by the noise consultant and by DWER using their own equipment, they've both confirmed that we're compliant with the noise regs. And the level of noise that we are talking about is in the 40s of decibels. Now, there was a comment that that noise is equivalent, roughly speaking, to a domestic refrigerator, and that's correct. That's the noise, that's the equivalent noise of a 45 to 55 decibel, to put it in perspective for you. So that's what we're talking about here. Regarding the planning consideration of noise, which is what you're here today to deal with, I refer you to page 33 and 34 of the RAR under the heading of noise regulations. The points that are there are 5 points, and they are correct in your consideration of this matter. And it's the last point that I want to draw your attention to. And this is actually pulled from some case law. It says the merits-based planning assessment needs to focus on not just the mere audible detection of noise, but rather whether such audible noise is unreasonable, unwarranted, and thus offensive to the acceptable amenity of a locality. Now, amenity is a technical test. It requires an objective assessment, not a subjective assessment. And in dealing with the subjective comments that have been made by some residents and persistently by some residents, I'm just reading from the DAP training guide here, just so that you know where I'm reading from. In respect of your consideration of resident concerns and comments, under the heading of petitions and submissions, it says that the views of residents may assist to help refine and explain the objective analysis of amenity, which might not have been canvassed or dealt with by the experts in an appropriate way. But it says, and there's a warning, the first one is from the tribunal in Tempora versus the Shire of Kalamunda, and this has been referred to many times because it's quite an old case. It says, it is possible that the opinions have been distorted by an emotional issue, or the most vocal residents are more sensitive to their environment, and the process of choosing the neighbourhood champion is self-selecting. There are other factors that give the tribunal cause for concern, such as the unarticulated social pressure of neighbours, ignorance of the full implications of the use, and the unwarranted fears arising from a repugnance of a particular use. It also refers in the same guide to a decision of the tribunal in Woolworths Limited and the City of Joondalup, 2009, and it was referencing a Victorian civil and administrative tribunal case dealing with neighbourhood residents.
You're at your 10 minutes, so are you close to reaching?
Very close. I just want to read this bit. So what the tribunal said there in respect of the resident submitters' comments, they said, while we can appreciate the concern expressed by resident objectors on these matters, any assessment of the amenity impacts of this in any assessment of the amenity impacts of this proposal, a distinction must be drawn between what people perceive the impacts of this will be or are and the reality of those impacts. It is perfectly reasonable for the residents to hold the fears that they do, but from the tribunal's perspective, we must be satisfied that there is a factual or realistic basis to those fears in order for us to conclude that this use will result in the amenity impacts alleged by the residents.
All right, thank you. If you'd just like to stay there, the panel members may have some questions of you. Did anybody have any questions of Mr. Foley at this point? Yes, certainly, Councillor, please go ahead.
It's Ian Birch.
Oh, sorry.
Did Councillor have one as well? No.
Did you? Oh, sorry, I thought I saw your hand raised. Sorry, Ian, please go ahead.
Thank you. There was mention made of noise 24 hours a day. Does the site operate 24 hours and does it emit any noise?
I can deal with this. I also have a printout, if I may show you a log from the noise monitoring community.
I don't think we need to have material tabled. I think I'm quite comfortable with you just explaining.
So the facility does not operate 24 hours a day. The operations start at 7 o'clock in the morning and they finish normally around 4:35, but they finished up by 6 o'clock in the afternoon. The only people that are there before 7 o'clock after 6 o'clock in the afternoon are the administrative side of the operation. There is no truck movements. There are no stressing beds that operate during that time. All of the complaints that were made by the residents as to nighttime noises to DWER have been dismissed effectively by DWER. We've provided full video. We've got video monitored CCTV across the site, and we provide them with the noise monitoring. Any of the noises that have been complained of at night time are not from this operation.
So the site's effectively closed over at night time?
It is closed at night time.
Okay. And, sorry, Chief,
Another one, yeah?
just, there's also mention of vibrations.
Yes.
When you talked about your monitoring and reporting to DEWA,
Yes.
is that part of it?
Yes. Again, dealing with the daily complaints that are made, particularly by there are two resident submitters that make generally daily, sometimes multiple daily complaints. We have vibration monitors that are set up, and at all times that they've made those complaints, the vibration monitors have been checked. DEWA have received a copy of those, and they haven't even been set off. The complaints about a rhythmic beating and thumping at night time and sometimes during the day, our consultants have had a look into that issue, and it appears to be the freight railway line where it crosses Soldiers Road and then again Bishop Road, and that's the rhythmic beating that sounds like a heartbeat is from the multiple freight rail movements that occur in this area.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
You've got one more?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, I'll leave it.
All right, Mr. Syme had a question. I'll come back to you, President.
Yeah, thank you. Look, there've been some issues of dust. Is that are they historic or are they current? And secondly, what are the measures which are attending that?
Yeah. So the issue with dust historically was not with the dust from the actual bridge sections that have been made. The issue that DEWA raised regarding dust was the dust that came off the site as vehicles were moving on the areas which were previously gravel. The way that DEWA and Polvine addressed this to DEWA's satisfaction was DEWA required us to seal the entirety of the site, as you would have experienced at the site visit yesterday, in recycled asphalt in any of the main laydown areas, or and the main driveway itself, which has the highest amount of use and is in a straight line, which is shared between us, Perma Pole across the road, and WA Premix, had to be fully sealed. And so now the dust that comes off the site is it really is negligible. There's nothing really that's coming from the site. Have had multiple complaints of a big dust plume that from the resident objector's house. It looks like it's coming from the top of, because we're up the hill, it looks like it's coming from the top of the facility, but behind us is a quarry, and we actually had DEWA on site on a day when the blasting occurred, and there is a white plume of dust that comes. It's more than a kilometre behind us, but it gives the impression that it's coming from the top of that building. But there is no white dust that comes from our facility.
Thank you. And can you just outline for us what the current noise monitoring procedures are, the protocols?
Yeah.
And either what you regularly do and what you do. What reporting mechanisms they are?
Yeah, yep. So we have a number of reporting mechanisms, but at the moment there is an on-site noise monitor that's located near the main dam, near the road, and across the road at the vacant hall. Under the noise management plan, those, even though they're temporary monitors, they have been in place since before October. Yeah, about 5. So continuous recording day and night for 5 months. Anytime that there's a complaint that's raised by DEWA, we go, and if there isn't a complaint, we go out and inspect those regularly, download the data, and Lloyd George Acoustics goes through it, because the raw data itself isn't particularly helpful. Because it includes all noises. So on a windy day, you pick up the noise of leaves, for example, and so the noise consultant needs to remove those high frequency noises from the graph report on it. Under the noise management plan that Matt has prepared, it's proposed to convert those to a permanent noise monitoring station. and those would be remotely accessible. There is some commentary in my submission about not having that live. We can make the information live, but the raw data itself isn't particularly helpful to anyone.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Mr. Syme? All right. President Coles, you had some questions?
I just had one question following on from the Deputy Presiding Member's question. So it's 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday only are the operating hours?
It's 7 a.m.
7 a.m.
Yeah, so staff start to pull into site. Security get there at 6 o'clock. For the last couple of months, the staff have been travelling through north. Part of the discussions with DWER was to have staff attend via Norman Road and via Lot 21 and then come down, so that they're not travelling down Robinson Road to access the site, which runs parallel with the train line. They park up, and at 7 o'clock, they radio out because everyone has a briefing meeting before everyone starts. They go out to their respective little sections. You would have seen on the site visit, there are a couple of like rest rooms because it does get hot out there during summer. So they go out, they have their daily briefing in the morning, and then at 7 o'clock, radio call goes out that says, now you can start. And that's when people then move into their process areas, or the trucks are allowed to move. All of the times that complaints have been made as to activities before 6 o'clock, DWER have dismissed those. We've provided.
So has the facility ever operated on a weekend?
Yeah, it operates every Saturday.
Sorry, I just asked the question, Monday to Friday, and you said yes. So now you're saying Saturdays as well?
Sorry, the application is for Monday to Saturday. That's what we've applied for. Monday to Saturday, 7 a.m. until 6 p.m.
Okay, so I must have misheard, because I thought I specifically asked the question whether it was Monday to Friday.
So I must have misheard.
So it's Monday to Saturday.
Monday to Saturday. Yep. It's that's the times that the noise apart from public holidays.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Mack, did you have any questions?
Not at this stage.
Okay. I have a question. Some of the previous submitters talked about water quality, etc., and I think the EPN regarded noise, dust, and wastewater management initially. Could you explain where we're up to in terms of monitoring wastewater management and what the processes are, please?
So the concern from DWER was not contamination of the groundwater. We do regular monitoring. So in the wet months when we're able to, and that occurs on a monthly basis, we take samples from the washdown pit, which is WA Premix's washdown area. We take it from the drains that are on site. We take it from the basin, and we also take it from the road reserve drain out the front of the site. Those occur on a monthly basis. And the concern from DWER was stormwater and how to appropriately deal with stormwater, because the historical drain for the main production building and the area north of that area has been draining overland into the bush forever part of the site since at least, it was last upgraded in around 1986, but there was a drainage line there before that. So what they wanted us to do was to separate out the production areas. Stormwater for that goes into the main basin, and the stormwater for the main driveway and where vehicles are goes into a separate basin at the front. And they wanted us to install sediment traps, because it was the sediment of runoff from the vehicles travelling on the road that they didn't want having the potential to move off-site. So the drainage management plan contemplates a new drainage line along the southern boundary of the site to take that old drainage line, which otherwise went overland, and bring it into the main basin, with sediment traps both along the way and really big ones just before it goes into the basin. And the driveway and car parking areas we take the southern side of the main driveway and all of the driveway areas, and that goes into a separate sump, so that if there's an issue with someone's car is leaking a little bit of oil, it doesn't set off we're able to identify where that's coming from and deal with it. And there are different types of filtering that occur in that area.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. Any other questions, Mr. Syme?
Yeah, quick follow-up. I didn't notice you using water in your manufacturing process at all.
No, so
the concrete batching plant does, but your process doesn't use any water in it.
Yeah, the only bit of water is wash water. So for that whole bridge section, and sorry, presiding member, I'm going to mention a place that we walked past on the site visit. After we inspected SB4, the stressing bed where they were doing a pour yesterday, and we walked past the sea containers, on the left-hand side, I pointed out an area where it was a bridge section was raised and it was sitting on a metal a sealed bund. That sealed bund, they used 200 litres of water to clean the whole thing. All of that water drops to the ground. It then evaporates and they vacuum up the water that's at the bottom. The stuff that gets vacuumed up is disposed of site, and if there's any water that's still left, that water in the vacuum cleaner ends up in the sealed bunded spot up the top for disposal. We have, as part of this process with DWER, updated the wash method. So previously they just went straight into high pressure washing. Now it's low pressure wash and a scrub first to get any finer parts of dust to drop down, and then they high pressure wash it, but it does not use a huge amount of water.
Okay, thank you. All done with questions? Just one more, Mr.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
You said that when COVID came along, there was no need for any approvals. Can you just explain that?
So I can. So during the COVID period, there was an exemption provided for industrial development on industrial land. And so during that period, no planning approvals were required. Prior to that, there was an application that was in. It was deferred to allow some more strategic planning to occur and negotiations with the Planning Commission regarding the bush forever area. Those negotiations were signed, which provide for the future seeding of the bush forever area if the WAPC are able to assist with certain things like clearing the extra 23 metres. This application doesn't contemplate any clearing of that right. 23 metres.
Happy with that response?
Well, just and during that period, with noise regulations and
so the noise regulations still
apply.
Yeah, the environmental requirements still applied, and we're dealing with DWER as to how the facility was operating prior to the issuance of the EPN last year.
No, thank you. Mr. Syme, you had your hand up.
Oh, yes, look, I just noticed you had some comments on the alternate recommendation. Most of your comments are straightforward. I wonder if you could just pick up some reasons for, or elaborate on some of the reasons. I think particularly E, I guess, and I think K, sort of the ones that lead out as needing a bit more comment. I think the rest of them are pretty straightforward.
Yeah, so with E, which is my number 3, the change that I've made there was to allow it to be to the satisfaction of the Shire unless designed and installed to the satisfaction of the Shire and thereafter maintained for the life of the development unless otherwise approved. The reason for doing that is the Australian standard that they're referring to, AS 2890.1 2004. There's actually a draft 23 version. It's about to start. And so thought it wasn't appropriate to refer to a specific standard. That's up to the Shire as to what standard applies at the particular time.
Hey, with the monitoring.
Yeah, okay. So K refers to 24/7, 365 online noise monitoring. Like I said a bit earlier, we've got no actual issue with doing that, but the data that's put forward is meaningless because it will always have all of the noise sources, not the noise sources from this particular site. So what we've proposed as an alternate, which is generally consistent with the one for the noise condition that's imposed for the neighbouring lot, is that we're required to have continuous monitoring and we need to retain that for 12 months. And if a complaint comes in and the Shire or any other regulator wants access to it, then we provide it to them and we don't make an issue. They don't need to go and get a court order or anything. We have to provide it as a condition. And that way, at the same time, if there is an issue, we can go and have our noise consultant do a review and provide it.
Oh, and the other one was Ian. Maybe you could mention Ian, which is the intersection upgrade.
So we have no issue with the upgrading of the intersection. A similar condition was imposed in respect of the Lot 21 approval, and we are already well on our way with Main Roads in having the 15% design approved. The issue that we have is within 90 days of the approval to have it actually constructed. With Main Roads processes as they are, that's an impossible timeframe for us to comply with. So what I have suggested is a 12-month period to allow that to occur, and then a further, discretion, which is unless otherwise approved by the CEO of the Shire, and that would assist with any timing issues that might happen at the back end in terms of actual construction.
All right, thank you, Mr. Foley. Any other questions? And then we can move ahead to the Shire officers.
So I just want to follow up on that condition. KL. You raised that one, John, but just that the community reference group that you had concerns with. If someone did have a complaint or a concern and they wanted to contact
so
someone in the plant, is there a line available there?
Yeah, so we update as part of this process and the discussions with DWare, we upgraded our website so that it has a complaints process. Alberto receives any of the phone calls that come through, a notification of it from the main office if there is a complaint that's raised. What we found is over the last little period is that it's only been used a handful of times, and the complaints related to an alarm, a noise of an alarm going off. That wasn't from our facility. That was from Colley's facility, which is to the north of us. But there were some very agitated residents about making a complaint about an alarm going off constantly, but that's not from our side. We don't have audible security alarms.
Okay, I think you've answered the question. Thank you. Are there any other questions of the presenter? We can move ahead to questions of the Shire officers. Are we all done with Mr. Foley? Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Panel members, any questions of the Shire officers? Yes, Councillor Mack.
I actually have a couple of questions just to clarify some of the comments that have been made. I'd just like to get your opinion on a comment made around an unfair consequence of this approval being put on another development application or potential development application for Lot 30 and being required to put in a potential buffer zone, and that might be against the current plans. Can I get your comment on that particular comment that's been made?
Certainly, thank you, member. So the Shire's had its local planning strategy approved 2022 by the West Australian Planning Commission. It does certainly show the planning for the future urbanisation of Lot 30, which is directly north of the existing Court Grammar K-12 school and more or less south and west of the subject land we're dealing with. That proposal is currently with the Commission to be zoned urban under the region scheme. Zoning of urban would signal that it is able to be developed for urban purposes. So it would be challenging to, on the one hand, be strategic planning for urban, yet on another have a potential issue of buffers needing to be applied or allocated over that land, whether it's a small or otherwise a portion of that land zone urban. The RAR hopefully set out clearly that in making the Cardup Business Park local structure plan, there was a lot of acute effort placed upon industries managing their impacts so that we didn't have impacts essentially extending beyond the limits of the Cardup Business Park local structure plan area.
Okay, thank you. Just another question, if I may, through the chair. There was a question around, there was a comment made around noise regulations commentary coming from the Shire. And I just wanted to ask, there was, as part of the Shire's RAR, an independent assessment or a peer review that had come through. That seems to differ quite a lot from what has been presented from the presenter. Has there been any updates of that since this was done?
Thank you for the question, member. We stand by the commentary we made in the Responsible Authority report, insofar as we say there are still elements which aren't sufficiently answered from a proper and orderly planning perspective to be confident that approval can be recommended. So the recommendation at an officer level was for deferral to allow further information to be provided to help better allow us to better understand the noise impacts and particularly the amenity impacts, which are irrespective of whether something does or does not comply with the noise regulations. As Mr. Foley did point out, there's a clear test around whether noise is unreasonable or unwarranted, and we don't feel confident that we have sufficient information before us to be able to land a position on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions of the Mr. Birch?
Chair, just in relation to that, firstly, and it's buried in 400 pages of attachment 10, and I appreciate the amount of time you must have spent on preparing this report, but the division of that attachment would have been a bit helpful when we were wading through all those pages. But anyway, but there's mention made in there in Mr. Foley's submission that DEWA has actually approved, said that this complies with the regulations. Notwithstanding what your consultant says, the regulatory authority is satisfied. How do you respond to that?
Well, thank you, member. I might take a slightly different opinion of what the noise branch, the environmental noise branch of DWER said. And if you look, well, I guess I'll take you to page 23 of the agenda. I think it's relatively clear to me that the noise branch heavily caveat their advice. They, and I quote, based on the noise and vibration report results for test 2, clients with daytime LED 10 assigned noise levels may be achieved at both receivers but only if the noise emissions from SB4 are not tonal at the receivers or do not cause a significant contribute to a level of exceedance. So I can't speak for the noise branch, they're not here today, but I find their advice not particularly helpful insofar as being absolutely clear that it's, from their perspective, compliant or not. And that's sort of been part of the reason we found this so challenging to get, for us to be assured that it is compliant. We just felt there was that need for some further information, which was the basis of the recommendation for deferral.
Chair, we
Yes.
do have the consultants, the noise consultant for the applicant. Wondering if we could allow that person to.
We've got our
provide
consultant, our
some
noise consultant
clarification.
here as well.
Well, the Shire equally, do you want to hear, as we've got the Shire up, we've kind of gone past, in a way, the applicants, but you could hear from the.
Yeah, well, my concern is we've got the regulatory authority basically not raising, say that, well, okay, they might qualify, but nevertheless, they're not saying, no, you can't do it. And there has been a response to the peer review, and I was going to raise it at the time, but I wanted to hear the response from the
All right.
the Shire first, whether their position has changed at all from the RAR, because there is, I believe, an
So you want to
alternative,
hear from the
an
Shire?
alternative view.
You want to hear from the Shire's peer reviewer?
Is their peer reviewer here as well?
Yes.
Well, I'd like to hear from the applicant first, but I don't mind either way.
All right.
Either way.
If we're all comfortable, let's hear from the applicant first. It does seem to be a particularly important issue. Would you like to just step up? Thank you. Just for the minute. Thank you. Do you want to put your question, Mr. Birch?
Well, I suppose there's two things. There's the response you provided to the peer review.
Yep.
And one of the key ones, or the one that DWIT raised, is the tonality.
Yeah, that's right.
SB4,
Mhm.
And also the fact that perhaps your opinion on DWIT's, if you like, qualified support.
Yep. So I guess our assessment showed it was compliant, and that was noise from SB4 tonality. I believe the Shire's consultant issue was more so with trucks and concrete boom when he was on site measuring. So those kind of things we think can practically, be fixed, and they have since the time. So, yeah, I guess my point is the issues that we think the Shire consultant has are very minor things that can be resolved with local screening, which has been implemented. Even though, we've said it's compliant, the WER has agreed. If there are these further issues that the Shire's consultant has, we believe these can be quite simply rectified, and it's not a significant issue.
All right. Thank you for that.
Sorry, can I just
Yes. Supplementary.
When we were there yesterday, I would say the loudest noise I heard was from the sawmill, or whatever it was next door. Does that come into your calculations, or the general calculations?
The sawmill was that from the
timber
permacast?
place next door? Collies, is it? Permit.
No, Collie's next door.
Oh, Collie's next door.
Sorry, the one that you saw on the way out.
Yeah, there was a comment made about.
That's perma pole. That's existing facilities that's prescribed premises. And on the previous days, all of the days, the noise monitoring the site next door.
Yeah, sorry. Mr. Foley, we'll address the questions back to the because you're not on the microphone at the moment, so we can't actually hear you on screen. So if you want to respond to that
yeah,
question.
in terms of our monitoring during our assessments, that's right. We've included all noise sources. Personally, when I was out there, I couldn't hear. Chemical.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Syme, yeah.
Follow up. Can I just be a bit clear about what Dwyer is actually saying? Now, in the November 2023 letter, it says, I'm satisfied that suitable noise mitigation and emission controls have been implemented to ensure noise levels are. So that's essentially saying the noise monitoring regime is satisfactory as far as Dwyer is concerned. And in the other comments, that is really saying, am I understanding that that's saying, well, if there are issues, they may be tonality, they may be other things, but there's no definite there's no definite finding on that. It's just saying, well, if there are issues, it might be tonality, it might be something else.
Yep.
But we're also saying in November 23 that there is a monitoring regime in place, which as far as Dwyer is concerned is satisfactory. Am I sort of summarising?
Correct. So yes, so obviously the mitigation has been put into place. We've submitted a report where we've taken their own measurements. And so they're saying we're happy with the compliance, and they've just said, yeah, as long as, you know, the stressing bed or something else on site isn't showing tonality. Otherwise, then, yeah, it's kind of like a caveat. So that's right.
All right. Would you like to hear from the Shires?
Sorry,
please do, President Coles.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, to ask a question. So can you explain, and certainly from a layperson, tonality is something that sort of raises its head as a particular significant issue, and there's some discrepancies, and at one point there's 5 decibels discrepancies between some reports. Can you explain firstly what tonality is to a layperson, and secondly why? Because I would imagine 5 decibel difference is quite significant.
In terms of the penalty that's applied if tonality is...
So I've got some information we're looking at receptors 7 Carbro Drive, and they're saying it was too high. 49 decibels at being 7 decibels greater than the 42 decibels, and that was at the dwelling at 7 Carbro Drive. That was after the mediation or remediation, I guess would be the term, work's been put in, such as the sea containers and the like. So the comment is made that's 5 decibels too high. Can you, as a layperson?
Yep. So I guess just to explain tonality, so it's considered an annoying characteristic. So that's why in the regulations, so it's like a single frequency. That can be considered annoying. So that's why in the regulations they have this penalty on if it's considered tonal. And the method for assessing tonality is described in the regulations. So yeah, I guess that's why that 5 dB can be added. From our assessment, as you can see in our report, we didn't consider it to be tonal in that latest report. And again, tonality and from the Dwyer report would be from that stressing bed 4. And I would just reiterate that, and I guess once we hear the Shire's consultant, his main issue was with the trucks and the concrete boom, which is, you know, something completely different and which can be pretty, easily rectified through just local screening, which has been implemented.
Can I ask a subsequent question if I can?
Yes.
So tonality, is that subjective or objective?
It's objective, that's right. I guess background noise can allow for some level of subjectivity. And obviously the assessment period you're assessing over, that obviously can differ between consultants. So that's your answer for that. And I guess I would just bring up that non-compliance you're talking about refers to an influencing factor that differs from our opinion, from our assessment. So it probably looks higher from their perspective than we would recommend it is.
Yes.
So can you explain that to me, what you mean
Yep.
by influencing?
So an influencing factor is applied to areas based on if they have commercial or industrial around them, if they have major or minor roads. So in this case, it's our opinion that the premises, the whole permacast site, its land of use is industrial. So it has a higher influencing factor than the Shire's consultant has suggested. So I guess that's maybe another reason there's a discrepancy there. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Syme.
So just tonal noise, a continuous blast from a continuous noise from a narrow band horn, for example, would be a tonal.
Correct. Yep. Like a high pitched beat. Yeah. Those kind of annoying characteristics.
All right, thank you. We're all done with that line of questioning. Did we want to hear from the acoustic consultant from the Shire? Did we have any further questions from the acoustic consultant? No?
From the Shire?
But from the Shire,
Yes,
definitely. You have some questions for the Shire. Okay, so we'll invite you back. Thank you very much. Do you want the acoustic consultant from the Shire? Yes, good, excellent, got it right.
Yes, look, thank you for this. 5 minutes.
It's rather than a presentation, I think it's about questions to you. Thank you.
If I can, thank you,
Yes.
presiding member. So my question again is the same question I was put to the applicant's consultant, is that concern about the decibels and the extra 5 decibels, the tonal, and why there is such a difference when I've been told just now, I've learned something just now, that tonal is objective, yet there's such a difference between the two reports. Because is there some way you can try and answer that?
Yes, there are a few factors in there. The concept of tonality, I like to think of it like a vacuum cleaner. You can actually hum to a vacuum cleaner. Now, maybe it's just me, maybe others do it as well. But because you can hum to it, you can pick a tone out of it. And when you measure it objectively, you can see it has a tone. So there's a specific test we apply, which is in the noise regs. But the clue is that if it sounds like you can hum to it, or if it sounds like there's a single note in it, then that's a sign that something's subjective. I actually haven't, in my assessment, considered tonality at all. So what I've been talking about is a difference of 5 decibels, but nothing to do with tonality. Okay? I've been out on site. I've measured the noise from permacasts. It is over the noise regs. It is too loud when I measured it. The reason it was too loud, it had nothing to do with the stressing bed. It was the concrete trucks and the concrete pumps supplying concrete to the stressing bed, which were causing exceedances. They were too loud. I've heard today that something has been done to it to quieten those down. I haven't seen anything yet, but there may be something in the pipeline for that. So that's one issue. The second issue is 5 decibels. So I differ in the noise criterion applying to the site compared to the applicant. And there seems to be a difference of a couple of decibels, which Dewar had also picked up. They support my calculations. But more importantly, there's a difference of 5. What I have said is that there's a special clause in the noise regs that says that if noises significantly contribute to levels at a resident, you apply -5 correction, -5 penalty. So we've already heard, and apparently you have heard, noise from adjoining operations. Pole, saws. They are also allowed to make noise at the nearest houses of the same level. But if you have a situation where site A makes noise meeting the assigned level, site B, same thing, site C, same thing, all of a sudden the noise at the neighbours exceeds the assigned level. So there are clear requirements to reduce, everyone collectively reduces the noise by that extra 5 decibels. That's what we're looking at here. They haven't demonstrated that they can do that or that they have done that. And we have an entire industrial estate. If it pleases, I'll just read one comment out of the, there's a guideline issued by the WER regarding the noise regs. And they state, for an application for new industry or expansion of an existing one, which is part of a large industrial estate, the department would require the applicant to achieve noise targets set below 5 dB below the level. Meaning targets to be 5 decibels below the assigned level. So we have 5 decibels due to tonality, nothing to do with what I've said. I'm talking about 5 decibels below because we've got lots of industry either out there or potentially out there. It's an industrial estate. So for those reasons, that's why I found there's 7 decibels too loud, 2 decibels just from their trucks, and the other 5 because it's a significant industrial estate.
Do you have a supplementary?
I do, if I can, Presiding Member. Just sorry, when did you do the testing and what was the date?
That was, I'd have to check my files, but that was last November, I think it was.
I think November was. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? How do you factor in the road and the rail noise into your assessment? Leave aside, you've got an industrial estate, but you've also got a busy road and you've also got a freight rail track.
That's exactly right. You're right. It's with busy road. You've got a freight line. You've also got wind trees. They all generate noise, which we don't measure. So I've been doing exactly noise measurements in that environment, tricky environments, since 2014. Reports to DWER, and they've accepted each and every one. What I do, is you wait till the vehicles go by, and then you look at, then you measure what's left. You wait till the wind dies down, you measure what's left. You wait till there's no train, you measure what's left.
And how can you determine in what's left what is applicable to this particular application and what's applicable to the timber, the sawmill, etc.?
That's a very good question. What you do is you listen to where that stuff's coming from. I've been doing this 35 years now. The first time I used this technique was 1991, I believe. So it's a special technique that all the should know. What you do is you listen for the noise, you work out where it's coming from, and you work out if it's from your side or not.
Any potential for that noise to be deflected, reflected in any way?
Only in known fashions, what I've seen in 35 years of doing this.
Okay, no more questions from me. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm still struggling with this. So you're saying DWER is wrong?
DWER, when they look through their report, no, not at all, no.
Well, they've approved, they won't be qualified, but they've said it meets the regulations. You've heard there's been ongoing daily monitoring that goes to DWER, and what I understand, that's acceptable to them. So
okay,
where's the problem?
What I'll say there firstly is that the DWER reports that I saw were the reviews of the initial reports from the applicant. The applicant never considered the noise from their vehicles, from their trucks, from their concrete pumps. They looked at a filtered set of noise coming from the stressing bed, and they said the stressing bed's fine. And then they presumed, they made the assumption that the entire noise from the site is fine because they felt the stressing bed noise was fine. What I found was that wasn't the case.
But the noise is the noise.
Correct.
And at the monitoring sites they have, I understand it meets, it goes to DWER every day, meets those levels. So.
Sure. So if we take a step back, DWER looked at the noise from the stressing bed because that was what they were guided to by the applicant. That's all they were looking at. They did comment. I could read the comment out, but I don't want to waste time. The DWER comment was that they haven't, a cumulative impact of all noises from the site hadn't been conducted. So from what they saw, which was based on what they were presented, they didn't see any problems. What I'm saying to you is I don't think they were presented the full picture of what was happening out on site.
I think you've missed the point. The monitors they have,
yes,
the noise, I would have thought, measures
everything.
The noise, not.
I understand. Yes. The monitors that are located on site, you don't have a monitor at the boundary of 7 in Cardborough.
Well, there's a monitor at
you have
across at the hall.
That's right. You have a monitor at the hall, which is too far away to demonstrate exceedances. So to me, I would be comfortable that the noise level at the hall would meet all the regulation requirements. I would be comfortable to state that. But it's the noise closer which is a problem.
All right. I think we might have sufficient information to at least form some conclusions. Are we comfortable with our questioning at this point?
Can I ask the obvious question?
I'm not comfortable.
No, but I think that's a point.
Why is it? And noise can be measured, but it's also a bit subjective as well. Why is it that when we are standing across the road from the site when it is operational, when the testing bed's going, when there are truck movements going on, across the road at Soldiers Road, we can't hear it? Why is that? Does that mean that our noise is okay? Because if we're looking at the common sense version of it, and I really hesitate to always use the common sense argument, but in this case, you're standing there and you can't hear anything. You can hear, it's almost deafening with the trucks going past, because there's big trucks going down Soldiers Road. That's almost deafening. There were no trains running yet because the Austrian will come back. When the trains will run, they'll be very loud. Common sense says there is no standing directly across the road. There is nothing there. How do we reconcile that?
Sure, and that's a really good question. What I would say to that is that if you managed to have a busy continuous road at that location, Soldiers Road was busy continuous for the duration of the activities, and you can't hear the site hall, then it becomes an academic question, which I don't.
Even when the trucks are not there, I mean, there were trucks going past one a minute, but in that 30 seconds when they were there, you still can hear it.
Okay, I wasn't there. I can't comment on that. What I can tell you is that when I was there and there were no cars or trucks going by, I could hear the site really clearly, and what I was hearing was concrete pumps and concrete trucks. That's what I was hearing.
But I wasn't hearing it. I mean, you know that there's an activity. You know there's an activity going on there. It's not bird song, but it is very low level.
At my location is 50 decibels.
Well,
all right, let's not debate the matter.
That's quieter than a truck driving past. Yes.
I think I'll allow one more question, and then I'm quite keen to move ahead with the matter.
Well, Chair, just if I can go back to the applicants, the suggestion is that the monitoring is in the wrong location. Can I have a question whether that is yes or no? Or I don't want to need a lengthy answer, but
you would have to come up to the microphone.
So yes, the answer is yes, ideally, 15 metres from the residence, you'd install it. Obviously, there's the issues with you have to gain permission, which I don't think we've received. So this is our best location to be reasonably representative of a resident on that west side. So that's why it's been chosen.
All right, thank you. Any other questions of the Shire? We interrupted the Shire officers for all the acoustic stuff. Any other questions? just want to be fair. Are we all done with questions at this point? I might just ask one, and that is, and it might be irrelevant or not in some cases, but I will ask one. The applicant put forward some changes to an alternate to approve this application. You will have seen those suggested edits. Did you have any issue with any of those edits in particular? Did you feel that any of those edits were broadly acceptable? And
thank you, Madam Chair. Particularly, if I could spend some time on condition K and condition L, maybe starting with condition L. We do take a difference of opinion on the reasonableness of a community reference group. We do have a couple operating within our Shire, our CRGs as we call them, and they are extremely effective when a proposal is contentious. And we say that there is decisions made by not only the tribunal, but by development assessment panels, which have seen and determined that CRGs are a reasonable condition to impose in situations where activities. Condition L at the moment.
yes, understand
Yep.
that, but
And so that's condition L.
Yep.
Sorry, condition K. Condition L, we've heard noise is a significant issue. We believe there are technological solutions that could be made available to continuously record and make that recording very transparent, so that we start to actually remove maybe some of the subjectivity around a noise, and having a live monitor similar to what has been imposed for Coburn Cement with its monitoring of PM10 particulates, and having the ability to report that, make it available, and then particularly give residents a 24/7 contact number to contact is seen to be
All right.
reasonable. Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Panel members, shall we move ahead with the items now? We'll take the responsible authority recommendation first before us, which is to refuse the application for reasons A, B, C, and C Roman numerals 1, 2, 3. Is there a mover, please, for that as the primary motion?
I'm happy to move that.
Thank you, President Coles. Is there a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Mack. President Coles, as mover, would you like to speak to the motion, please?
Thank you, presiding member. I will be very succinct and short, but there's one issue that I can't reconcile in my own mind, and that is about noise. We've been told that noise is objective, yet my assessment from what I've heard from the two members who have spoken, I shouldn't use the term members, the two consultants that have spoken about noise, it certainly is anything but objective. It seems to me it's quite subjective. My concerns really are in relation to that. Notwithstanding the site visit we did yesterday, I cannot reconcile in my mind this concern about the 7 decibels being too high. The consultant the Shire has employed has made some very pertinent comments in relation to the 5 decibels as a, I can't remember the term he used, but basically it's something that needs to be added if there's any, it's a cumulative because it is an industrial area. So, you know, we talk about the environmental noise assessment that was submitted, and that was when it came back to MODAP last year. There were some concerns about that. there was an independent expert peer review done with, again, there was some concerns in relation to that environmental noise assessment. Again, it may well be that things have changed since November last year, but I am not convinced, it needs to be unequivocal in my mind, that the noise has been allayed and that those limitations of the noise are acceptable. Notwithstanding the comments that the Department of Environment and Water Regulations have made, I cannot be satisfied, and I don't believe the panel can be satisfied, that those maximum permissible noise levels for the land uses based on levels, frequency and matters, such as impulsiveness and totality, have been allayed. So they really are my concerns. I might pause for the moment and let the other members speak if they wish to, but certainly it's a very concerning issue, and the one issue is all about the noise. I think everything else has been done, and I do acknowledge the work the applicant has done, but for me it comes down to that one issue of noise.
Thank you. Councillor Mack has seconded the motion. Would you like to speak to it?
Sure. Yeah, and firstly, I want to also say I appreciate the efforts that have been put in over the last few months to improve and get to where we have. The issue for me comes down to, once again, settling the noise issues and just the discrepancy between the two consultants, one engaged by the Shire itself and one engaged by the applicant. I don't believe that I can be satisfied that those discrepancies have been adequately dealt with to approve the motion that's at hand.
Thank you. Would anybody like to speak against the motion? Thank you, Mr. Simon.
Look, I'll be very brief as to this. If we get to the next stage, I'll be a bit more informative. But no, I think this is entirely an approvable project. I think the noise issues have been addressed quite well, and I won't vote for this motion. I could elaborate on that at some length later on if we get a chance.
All right, thank you. Would anybody else like to make comment, Mr. Birch?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, no, I'm not supporting the motion. I suppose first and foremost, I'm not convinced that the grounds for refusal, insufficient information, is sufficient to refuse an application. At best, I suppose you might say there'd be another deferral, but there's already been one some months ago. But yeah, I think that in my view, there's sufficient grounds, and the point's been made. We're not arguing about the use, setbacks, all of the normal things that you might argue about. It's really about the amenity, and it's pretty much been narrowed down to noise. And whilst I guess there'll remain some alternative views on that, I think we have to rely on the relevant regulatory authorities. So yeah, I don't support the motion.
Thank you. This is very difficult. We've heard a lot today. I'm of a mind not to support the motion before us on the basis that I believe the matters can be regulated, can be mitigated, and are being carefully monitored at this point. I concur with Mr. Birch that it's not about the actual land use, the location of it, etc. The Metropolitan Region Scheme, local planning scheme, etc. Highlights this as an industrial area. If any of the activities of those industrial uses go beyond environmental regulation, then there are appropriate measures to deal with that, I believe. So we're also in an area where there are a lot of other noise factors which heighten sensitivity to noise generally. So but I have listened to the views of everybody today, but I'm not in a position to support the motion at this point. With that said, I leave it up to President Coles to close the debate and
yep, thank you. Thank you, presiding member. I'm not sure this is appropriate in this environment, but I certainly would foreshadow the Regulation 13 motion as circulated by the Shire if this motion was to fail. So I would foreshadow that. Again, I'm not going to harp on, it is about that noise, notwithstanding the comments that have been made, notwithstanding DUA, the concern that is looms large for me is noise. Noise has been reduced. I think that's quite unequivocal, but I am still concerned about the 7 decibel exceedance, which has been passed on to us through the report. So that's what I'm concerned about. I'm happy now to put it to the vote.
Thank you very much. So those in favour of the motion to refuse this application? That's councillors Mack, Symonds, Birch and Miss Hyde. The motion fails 2-3. We therefore need to take an alternate motion. I think President Coles, you foreshadowed the alternate to approve that came through from the R13.
That's correct, Madam.
Would you like to put that as the alternate motion?
Thank you, Presiding Member. I would like to put that. So that's one that's as per circulation, with the inclusion of the paragraph being K for kilo and L for Lima.
Yes.
As circulated. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Yes, thank you. Do we have a seconder for that alternate motion? Thank you, Councillor Mack. Would you like to speak again to the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Presiding Member. Notwithstanding what I just said about the noise, there are, I think, quite clear and unequivocally there are some concerns in relation to amenity, specifically noise. This motion that has been circulated, I would support, and it's really important that I stress those 2 paragraphs that I mentioned previously, and that is in relation to paragraph K. And I think that's really important for the community to have confidence in the work that's being used. Again, that will address the noise issues that I've already spoken to. So that's about the 24/7, 365 online source. The director from the Shire did mention Coburn Cement, and certainly Dorrell, who also works within the Shire of Serpentine, Jarrahdale, have a community consultative group and have a monitoring system that works exceptionally well. And I'm not going to comment about how many complaints we have from Dorrell, but suffice to say, I'm not aware of too many, if any. So I think that's a key thing. It gives the community confidence, and I also think gives the applicants some confidence that instead of people, I've got to be careful how I word this, but I don't want to use the term vexatious, but maybe emotive. Instead of people making emotive concerns to either the Shire or to the applicants themselves, there is a almost an objective way that they can look at the noise levels, notwithstanding the comments that have been raised already about noises being raised after the operation of the applicants. But I think certainly the 24/7, 365 online source has worked well in Coburn, has worked well with Dorrell, and I think that would be a way to ensure that the work of the applicant is understood by the community. And similarly, in the same vein, I think a community reference group based upon the terms of reference would be a way that I won't say we, it's a way the community can work with the applicants. And I think that would again allay some concerns that we've heard from people that were supportive of the refusal. So thank the opportunity to move this, and thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you. Councillor Mack as seconder, do you have any additional comments?
Yes, I'd also just like to echo the idea of a little bit of precedence of where these couple of amendments have actually worked within the Shire, or for other shires as well. It's not just something that's been plucked out of the air. It's actually been used and a way of reporting and trying to actually bring some accountability to the conditions that are applied on the application. So I too support the inclusion of the aforementioned K and L conditions put on the application.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any amending motions. I mean, I have one, which is relatively straightforward, and that is to take the applicant's amendment to the, if you like, the preamble, which references the Shire's local planning scheme and the metropolitan region scheme, and the list of plans and specifications, and therefore to delete A, because I believe that that's the appropriate manner and form of an application.
Chairman,
So,
get a clarification from the mover.
yes.
I wasn't sure, but I thought by signalling out K and L, the mover was accepting the other suggested amendments.
I have not taken that, but
Yeah,
perhaps
well,
we do
I
need some
wasn't-
clarification.
Sorry, I haven't. I've moved it as circulated, but I'm happy if there wanted to be some further amendments that I've moved it as it is in its totality without any amendments. But I am minded to listen to some other arguments or other suggestions. But certainly my focus is on K and L.
Thank you. And Councillor Macker, you're of the same opinion as seconder. Thank you. Okay, so that would be my amending motion, just to tidy things up a bit. And that, I'll just repeat, is to insert the approval according to the plans and specifications in reference to Jarrahdale Local Planning Scheme 3 and Metropolitan Region Scheme as proposed by the applicant, and therefore deleting A, which is a repetition. So do I have a seconder for my amending motion? Mr. Symonds, happy with that. Anybody against that? Those in favour of that amending motion only? Thank you, that's unanimous. Any other amending motions?
Yes,
Mr. Symonds.
Could I move all of the other modifications as suggested by the applicant, with the exception of K and L?
Okay, so just for the purposes of running through that for clarity, that would
Yes,
be.
that would be delete B, change C to read as noted as 1 in his application, change D to
Monday to Saturday.
I beg your pardon?
B. Change C to Monday to Saturday, not
Yes.
Monday to Friday.
Yes. Do you want to do that separately?
Yeah, let's leave C out, please.
Sorry?
We'll leave C out for
Leave
now.
C out
Is that
for
all
now.
right?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, change D to change to 2. E goes to 3. F unchanged. G unchanged. H goes to 6. I goes to 7. Okay, now we're going to do separately. M goes to 9. N goes to 10. O
The rest are
unchanged.
consistent.
Yeah, P goes to 12.
So let's just be absolutely clear, Mr. Syme, before we seek a seconder. We've got deletion of production not exceeding the 73,000 tonnes because it's not a production according to the applicant.
Correct.
The stormwater management plan is simply the words unless otherwise approved by the CEO. Same with the car parking.
Yeah.
And the Australian standard, just adding the words unless otherwise approved by the CEO.
Yeah.
H is an adjustment of
to landscape.
the landscape
Yeah.
requirement. J is
Also J, yes, J, I think we can do C separately if you like, but I'd certainly move that to as well.
let's just take that separately
Yeah,
for
sure.
now. So it's just those, isn't it?
So
it just boils down to.
And then the last, well, certainly, or M doesn't change.
They don't, M, N, O and P do not change.
N does, N changes to.
N.
Yes.
To 12 months.
To 12 months.
Yes.
All right.
P
So
changes to 12, yeah.
I've still got P in there. So we've got hours of operation, we've got production, now hours of operation is out. We've got production for B, we've got the works for D, works for E, H. And N. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah, and the rest, and we can do the rest individually.
Okay. Panel members clear. Do we have a seconder for Mr. Syme's amendment?
Seconded.
Thank you. Mr. Birch. Any objection to those being moved on block? All those in favour of those as amending motions? That's unanimous. Thank you. Mr. Syme, did you wish to return to C?
Yes,
Hours
please.
of operation?
I'll move that C gets changed to include Saturday as an operation. Unless otherwise approved by the CEO.
Seconded? Do we have a seconder for that? Mr. Birch? Any opposition to that?
Can I ask a question, please, presiding member?
Yes.
And I don't know if the applicants can answer this. Am I at your discretion?
At my discretion, yes.
What would I'm trying to think. I know economic isn't necessarily a planning consideration, but maybe I'll couch it in these terms. What would the effect be if the operation did not work on a Saturday in terms of? I know it's probably not a consideration for planning, but
16% loss of production, basically.
That was quick. Yeah. Yes.
Brendan, you're not on the microphone. Sorry. Okay.
I got Ed in the corner. So, Ed.
Yeah. Sorry, Brendan, do go
That's
ahead.
okay.
We were just highlighting that, in fact, that there is a typo in the one that you proposed, but you might like to speak to that.
Yeah. So there is a typo in my number. It should have said 7 until 6, not 7 till 7. It's a slip up, and I apologise for that. In terms of Saturday being off the table, that would be absolutely catastrophic for the production of at the facility. All of our commercial competitors, and there are not many, all operate on a Saturday, and all of the other industrial operations operate on a Saturday as well. So the other bit is and you would have seen yesterday, I mentioned this, was that they run on 4-day cycles, and by having 6 days during the week, it allows every 2 weeks they work through 3 lots in that stressing bed. So if we knock one out, it stretches out the production significantly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just while you're there, Mr. Foley, I just want to point another typo. So you do actually mention weekends, which is obviously incorrect. So it should be reading: the hours of operation shall be limited to the periods between 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Saturday, and shall exclude public holidays,
yes,
unless otherwise approved by the CEO of the Shire.
My apologies.
All right, thank you very much. So, Mr. Syme, that's what you've moved. Mr. Birch has seconded.
Sorry, Chair, I didn't get the opportunity to speak as a seconder. Can I just?
Please go ahead.
I'll just make I think an important comment is that that's the normal allowable working period. If we're accepting the application as being compliant, then I don't think there's any grounds for taking out Saturday. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Any objection to that as an amending motion? Those in favour of that amending motion? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Any other amending motions?
Which is the one we missed out.
I think we were dealing with J separately.
Yes, I move that be deleted.
Is there a seconder for that? Mr. Birch, Mr. Syme, did you wish to explain?
I think I think the point that the applicant made is that it makes this is a valid one. The scope of any such road deterioration would be very difficult to pin back to this particular operation. There are, for very large vehicles, there are existing protocols in place, that is for the very large high wide loads, which is an audit, by trip audit. I think as a general rule for public roads which have got permitted vehicles on them, I think sheeting back this sort of asset allocation to one particular site is entirely unfair and unjust. And I don't think it'd stack up. So I think it doesn't really belong here.
All right, thank you. Mr. Birch, as seconder, did you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think the point was made by the applicants that they are permissible vehicles on the road, and therefore there is some doubt as to the validity of that condition, because there would be a lot of other vehicles also using of similar type using those roads. The excessively large vehicles that are used for transferring the actual beams, if that's what I can call them, there are measures in place through main roads to repair any or deal with any damage. So yeah, I'm happy to support that deletion.
Any objection to that amending motion? President Coles?
Thank you. I do object to that simply because it is quite clear that there will be an increase in traffic movement from Robertson Road, Norman Road and Soldiers Road. Roads are an asset. Roads need to be maintained. It's probably the single biggest issue of the Shire is roads. I think, notwithstanding what I've heard from the other members, this is something that I think is fair. It is something that, again, can, in terms of the applicants, show that they're contributing back in towards the community. And as I said, roads are important, and I think it's quite clear that the use of the roads will be increased by their vehicles. So I would suggest and certainly submit that should remain, paragraph J should remain as read.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to that? All right. Those in favour of that motion to delete J? And that's 4 of us. That's Councillor Mack, Mr. Syme, Mr. Birch and Ms. Hyde. Those against? President Coles. That is carried 4-1 as an amending motion. I don't think there are any other amending motions that panel members have foreshadowed. Mr. Syme?
Yes, no, I'd like to move to deletion of K.
Is that seconded by anybody? It's not, Mr. Syme, therefore your motion falls away. Any other amending motions? Oh.
Sorry, Member, can I ask a question? Yep. Just in terms of N, which I think now becomes whatever it becomes, but N.
Whatever it becomes, yes.
I think it changes from 90 days to 12 months, notwithstanding the fact the applicant has put that in as they're amended. Can we just confirm that 12 months would be a suitable time frame for them to comply with that, or do we need to make it longer? Or
there is discretion in there, unless otherwise
approved by the CEO.
They can go back to the Shire and argue a case.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave
Sometimes
that.
things do take longer, but then
Not
obviously the CEO may.
Not with main roads. Thank you.
Oh, that's the best joke of the morning. All right. If there are no further amending motions, you have the right to close the debate.
Okay, thank you, presiding member. And I thank the other members for their involvement. Certainly, I submit now that this is a motion that has merit. It's always challenging to make decisions. You can't always please everyone, and that certainly isn't a consideration for planning, but certainly it is a use that we've talked about. I'm still concerned about the noise, but certainly I submit that paragraph K and L will go a long way to mitigating those concerns that the community and others may have. So I will be happy to put this to the vote.
Very good. Thank you very much. So with that said, all those in favour of the motion before us as amended, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. So close to the end of the meeting, we just return to part C. We note the matters before the State Administrative Tribunal at present. There being no further or general business, I would like to draw the meeting to a close at 11:51 and thank everybody for their patience, their contribution and participation today. Thank you.
Thank you.